Imagine your home planet engulfed in flames, and the humans just handed you the match. The lecture hall fell silent as Instructor Zio adjusted his translation device, ensuring that every alien student could comprehend the human language he was about to speak. The class was a diverse mix of species from across the galaxy: Vel toxins with their shimmering scales, the gelatinous glue bars, and the insectoid hoits. All of them sat in rapt attention, their usual disdain for Deathworlders momentarily forgotten. Humans are a species that originated from a Deathworld, a planet so inhospitable it should have wiped them out long ago, Zio began, pacing the stage slowly, his footsteps echoing in the quiet room. The contrast between his measured pace and the chaos he was about to describe was stark. Yet, they not only survived but thrived. Zio's voice was steady as he continued. This lecture isn't about their biology, terrifying as that may be. Today we focus on something far more dangerous: their warfare. He tapped the holoprojector, which displayed a map of Earth, slightly altered to represent the fictitious planet of Eros. The year is 1942 by ocean time. The planet is engulfed in global conflict, and humans are in what they call the Second World War. This war is of particular interest because it highlights the sheer unpredictability of human strategy. Pay close attention to the events in the region they call Stalingrad. The map zoomed in on a city, its sprawling urban landscape detailed with buildings, rivers, and battle lines. The aliens shifted in their seats, their sensory organs focusing on the projected image. Here Zio pointed to the city. The humans displayed one of their most terrifying traits: their capacity for total war. The humans in this region, led by the ocean faction known as the Soviets, were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had not known defeat. Logic would dictate that they should have surrendered, retreated, or at least sought terms. But humans, they don't do what's logical. A glue bar in the front row burbled, its gelatinous form trembling. Instructor, what did they do instead? Zio's dark, intense eyes swept the room. They turned the entire city into a weapon. Civilians with no military training were handed rifles and sent to the front lines. Buildings were demolished to create barricades. They fought in the sewers, in the ruins, even in the freezing winter. When temperatures plummeted to levels that would kill most species within hours. And when they were encircled, trapped with no supplies and no hope of reinforcements, they didn't surrender, they fought harder. The holoprojector shifted to show scenes of urban combat: soldiers firing from windows, tanks rumbling through rubble-strewn streets, the skies blackened with smoke. Imagine the psychological warfare, Zio continued, his voice low and steady. The Germans, who had won battle after battle, suddenly found themselves in a nightmare. Every street, every building, every shadow could hide a human ready to kill. They weren't just fighting soldiers, they were fighting an entire population. The city's factories continued to produce weapons even under bombardment. Women, children, the elderly, anyone who could carry a weapon or aid in the war effort was enlisted. An Axion clicked its mandibles, a sign of unease. This Stalingrad, how did it end? Zio smiled, a grim expression that sent a shiver through the room. It didn't end for the Germans. They were defeated not just physically but mentally. They were unprepared for the lengths to which humans would go to defend their home. Stalingrad became a symbol of human resilience, but more than that, it became a lesson in their capacity for total, unrelenting warfare. The Soviets lost nearly 1 million soldiers, yet they considered it a victory. The room was silent, the weight of the story sinking in. Zio let the silence stretch, knowing that the lesson was beginning to take hold. The takeaway, Zio finally said, is not just about the tactics or strategies used, though those are important. It's about understanding that when you engage in war with humans, you are not just fighting an army. You are fighting an entire species that will use everything at their disposal, including their own lives, to achieve victory. They do not believe in fighting fair, and they do not believe in surrender. He paused, scanning the room to ensure his words had the desired impact. This is why the Galactic Council banned the use of humans in interstellar conflicts. But remember, just because they are banned doesn't mean they are gone. If you ever encounter a human on the battlefield, remember Stalingrad, remember that match they handed their enemy, and remember that humans, more than any other species, understand the true meaning of war. The students sat in stunned silence, each one contemplating the implications of the lesson. Zio turned off the holoprojector, the image of the burning city fading into darkness. This concludes the first part of today's lesson, he said, his voice echoing in the hushed room. Next, we will discuss how humans have adapted these tactics for interstellar warfare, but that is a lesson for another time. As the students filed out, Zio watched them go, knowing that the seeds of understanding had been planted. They would never look at humans the same way again. Instructor Zio stood in the center of the now dimly lit lecture hall, allowing the silence to stretch as the last of the students settled into their seats. The images of the ruined city of Stalingrad had vanished from the holoprojector, replaced by the cold void of space. The room was thick with anticipation. The alien student's attention laser-focused on Zio. He knew that the first part of his lesson had shaken them. Now it was time to push them further. Let's move forward. Zio began, his voice cutting through the stillness, to a more modern example. This time we look at an event that took place on the distant human colony of Ravager 3, a planet much like the one you now know as Viria 7. The year is 2284 by the human calendar, and the galaxy is at war. The humans, unsurprisingly, are in the thick of it. The holoprojector hummed to life, displaying a three-dimensional model of Ravager 3. The planet was desolate, with vast deserts, jagged mountains, and sprawling industrial cities. It was a world of extreme conditions, the kind that most species would avoid at all costs. For humans, however, it was just another battlefield. The Crix Imperium, a species known for their advanced technology and nearly invulnerable fleets, launched an assault on Ravager 3, expecting a swift and decisive victory, Zio explained, his tone even but laced with the gravity of the situation. What they didn't account for was the ingenuity and sheer unpredictability of their human adversaries. The holoprojector zoomed in on one of the planet's cities, a sprawling complex of factories and military installations surrounded by deserts. The Crix outnumbered the human defenders 10-1. Their ships were equipped with energy shields that rendered most conventional weapons useless. They had orbital superiority and complete control of the skies. By all logical metrics, they should have won the battle within days. Zio paused, his eyes narrowing as he leaned toward the audience. But humans don't play by the rules. When conventional tactics fail, they get creative. The projector shifted to show a schematic of a Crix battleship, sleek and bristling with weaponry. The humans knew they couldn't match the Crix in open combat, so they turned to a strategy that has been part of their warfare doctrine for centuries: asymmetry. Zio tapped the controls, and the image changed to show a human soldier or marine clad in heavy armor, his helmet's visor reflecting the burning horizon of Ravager 3. This Marines unit was tasked with one of the most audacious missions in military history: to board and disable a Crix battleship from the inside. But here's where it gets interesting. These Marines weren't equipped with advanced hacking tools or powerful explosives. Instead, they carried something far more dangerous: knowledge. He let that word hang in the air before continuing. These Marines had studied the Crix for years. They knew the ship layouts, the weaknesses in their systems, and most importantly, they understood the psychology of their enemy. Humans, you see, have a knack for getting inside their opponents' heads, literally and figuratively. The holoprojector displayed a sequence of images: the Marines infiltrating the battleship, using the ship's own maintenance tunnels to move undetected. They bypassed security systems by exploiting minor flaws, small oversights in design that the Crix engineers would never have considered dangerous. And then, Zio said, his voice lowering as the tension in the room grew palpable, they did the unthinkable. Instead of disabling the ship's weapons or engines, they targeted the life support systems, specifically those linked to the command deck. They sealed off the Crix command crew, cutting them off from their own ship. The Crix, with all their technological superiority, suddenly found themselves suffocating in their own vessel. A Hoyt student clicked its mandibles in disbelief. Why not destroy the ship outright? Because humans understand that victory isn't just about winning a battle, it's about sending a message, Zio replied, his tone sharp. By sparing the ship and taking the command crew alive, the humans demonstrated their dominance not just militarily, but intellectually. They wanted the Crix to understand that their greatest strength technology could be turned against them by a species that, on the surface, appeared inferior. The holoprojector shifted once more, showing the aftermath: the Crix battleship intact but powerless, drifting in space with its command crew in human custody. The remaining Crix forces, seeing their flagship captured without a single shot being fired, retreated in disarray. Ravager 3 was secured not through brute force, but through the careful application of strategy and psychological warfare. Zio turned off the projector, leaving the room in darkness for a moment before the lights slowly came back on. This is what makes humans such dangerous opponents, he said, his voice resonating in the quiet room. Their capacity for adapting to any situation, their willingness to exploit any weakness, and their understanding that war is as much about perception as it is about firepower. He stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the room. You've seen now how humans can turn the tide of battle through sheer ingenuity. In the next session, we will delve into the consequences of these tactics on a galactic scale, how humanity's approach to warfare has altered the balance of power in the universe. But for now, I want you to remember this: when you face humans in combat, you are not just fighting a soldier or a fleet. You are fighting an entire species that has perfected the art of war over millennia. Zio paused, his expression unreadable. Class dismissed. The students filed out, their minds whirling with the images and strategies Zio had shown them. The lesson was far from over, and they knew it. The true depth of human warfare was still to be explored, and as they left the lecture hall, the ominous reality of what that meant began to settle in. As the final session began, the students entered the lecture hall with a sense of apprehension. The two previous lessons had challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare, especially concerning humans. Instructor Zio stood waiting, a quiet intensity in his stance. The holoprojector was already active, displaying a rotating image of a massive space station, a hub of interstellar trade and diplomacy. Today we conclude our study of human warfare by examining an event that changed the course of galactic history. Zio began, his voice resonating through the hall. This is the story of the Battle of Hausan Station, a conflict that demonstrated once and for all why humans are considered the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The holoprojector zoomed in on the station, revealing its intricate network of docking bays, habitation modules, and defensive platforms. Hausan Station was neutral territory, a place where various species, including humans, conducted trade and negotiations. It was also strategically located near a cluster of valuable resources, making it a tempting target for the aggressive Zarth Dominion. The image shifted to show the Zarth fleet sleek, angular ships bristling with weapons, their hulls glinting ominously in the starlight. The Zarth were a militaristic species known for their brutal conquests and efficient war machines. When they set their sights on Hausan, they expected a quick and decisive victory. After all, the station was not a military installation, and its defenses were minimal. Zio paused, letting the tension build. But the Zarth overlooked one crucial detail: the station was home to a small human garrison, a mere handful of soldiers, engineers, and traders. In terms of numbers, they were insignificant. In terms of capability, well, the Zarth were about to find out. The scene on the holoprojector changed again, this time showing the interior of Hausan Station. The humans, dressed in a mix of military uniforms and civilian attire, were hastily organizing their defenses. Zio pointed to a figure on the screen, a grizzled officer issuing commands with calm precision. Commander Holt, the leader of the human contingent, understood the gravity of the situation. He knew that the station's defenses wouldn't hold against a direct assault, so he devised a plan that would use every ounce of human ingenuity, desperation, and cunning. The holoprojector displayed a series of rapid images: human engineers rigging the station's power systems, traders sealing off sections of the station, soldiers laying traps in the docking bays. The key to their strategy was simple: they would turn the station itself into a weapon. An Axian student leaned forward, its scales shimmering with curiosity. But how could they possibly hope to defeat the Zarth? They were outnumbered and outgunned, and that, Zio interrupted, is exactly why they won. The Zarth, confident in their superiority, launched a full-scale assault. Their ships began bombarding the station, certain they would overwhelm the defenders in minutes. But the humans had anticipated this. They had deliberately weakened certain sections of the station, creating the illusion of vulnerability. The holoprojector showed the Zarth ships closing in on the station, their weapons firing in a relentless barrage. But as the ships approached the weakened sections, something unexpected happened. The station's reactors flared to life, and with a series of controlled explosions, massive chunks of the station's outer hull were jettisoned directly into the Zarth fleet. The humans used the station's own structure as a weapon, turning debris into deadly projectiles. The Zarth ships, caught off guard, were torn apart by the very thing they thought would be their victory. And as the debris field spread, the remaining human forces launched their counterattack. The image shifted to show human soldiers in spacesuits, launching themselves from the station on maneuvering thrusters, weaving through the wreckage as they closed in on the crippled Zarth ships. The humans had prepared for this moment. Their soldiers boarded the damaged Zarth vessels, exploiting the chaos and confusion. They weren't just fighting with guns and blades, they were fighting with their minds, using the Zarth's own technology against them. Zio's voice grew quieter, more intense, as the scene played out on the holoprojector. In a matter of hours, the Zarth fleet was in disarray. Their flagship, the pride of their armada, was commandeered by a handful of human marines. And with their own ship's weapons, the humans turned the tide of the battle, destroying the remaining Zarth vessels. The holoprojector dimmed, leaving the room in darkness, except for the faint glow of distant stars. When the smoke cleared, Hyon Station still stood damaged, yes, but victorious. The Zarth Dominion, stunned by the defeat, retreated from the sector entirely. They had underestimated the humans, just as so many others had before them. Zio stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. This battle became a turning point in the war. The humans' victory at Hyon Station sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. It wasn't just that they had won, it was how they had won. They had taken an impossible situation and turned it to their advantage through sheer willpower, creativity, and tactical brilliance. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the room. This is the final lesson you must learn about human warfare: never underestimate them. They are a species born of a death world, forged in the crucible of countless wars, and honed to a razor's edge by their relentless drive to survive and conquer. They don't fight like anyone else because they don't think like anyone else, and that is what makes them the most formidable warriors in the galaxy. Zio turned off the holoprojector, plunging the room into silence. He regarded the students, his eyes locking onto each one in turn. Remember this when you face humans on the battlefield. You are facing a species that sees every conflict as a puzzle to be solved, a challenge to be overcome. And they will find a way to win no matter the odds. The students sat in stunned silence, the enormity of what they had learned sinking in. Zio allowed the silence to linger for a moment longer before finally speaking. Class dismissed. As the students left the lecture hall, the gravity of the lesson weighed heavily on their minds. They knew now that they had been given a glimpse into the mind of a species that had mastered the art of war, a species that, despite its small numbers and relative youth in the galactic community, had earned its place as one of the most feared and respected forces in the universe.